ていただきましょう。続きましては、アイラ・ムーノさんです。Next, please welcome our next presenter, Ms. Isla Munro. Please come up to the stage.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thank you for making it out in the morning. It's great to be here. And I'm here to talk to you today about dacc the Swiss way and how we're building permanent innovation villages for Ethereum and for defensive acceleration. So why do we need this, and why is defensive acceleration important? Vitalik shared an article, an essay about a year and a half ago now, I think, talking about my techno-optimism and his ideas for the importance of accelerating technology and being optimistic about technology while balancing that with the dangers of technology and how to be defensive against some of those dangers, especially now in this particular decade that we're in, which may be the pivotal decade for humanity, with the acceleration of AI and the potential for that to lead to very bad scenarios for humanity if not managed correctly. And so he asks the question in this article, do we fall in this decade into one of a number of traps from which we cannot escape, or do we find a way toward a future where we retain our freedom and agency? And the idea behind dacc is that we do retain our freedom and agency. And I had been part of Zuzulu very early on, and part of that, and it was decentralized. So Zuzulu was a series of pop-up villages and experiments where people lived together in a certain place. And the first one was in Montenegro for 2 months, experimenting with what it looks like when we try to create the network effects of Silicon Valley and cross-pollinate ideas, but do it in a place that is not in Silicon Valley or a major city, and bring the right people together and sort of bootstrap that effect. And being part of that, he decentralized the movement, and I was really inspired by the ideas of dacc. And I personally have been living in Switzerland for 10 years, and as we were thinking this through with the team, we were thinking, like, how can we build something meaningful under this movement, and realized that Switzerland, the country we're living in, is actually particularly well aligned for creating a sandbox that incubates innovation, but doing it in a dacc-aligned way. And why is that? Because Switzerland has a 700-year history of decentralization, and we kind of started to think of it as Switzerland as like the OG of dacc, or like the only maybe nation-state example of what dacc could look like. So for a bit of context, Switzerland is a direct democracy. Any law or decision can be changed by collecting 100,000 signatures and then having a referendum on that. But that's just one example of many of why Switzerland is very, very decentralized and has a very, very strong cultural technology towards dacc. So just quickly, for people that are new to the concept, dacc is good, and why? What is it? So it refers to defensive, decentralized, differential, and democratic acceleration of technology. And in particular, decentralized and defensive are important in that they protect us. So for example, defensive acceleration could be seen as, yes, let's accelerate AI, but let's make sure that we do it in a way that's open source and we know what we're getting into. But why now? Yeah, as I said, the critical decade. And how do these hubs actually potentially contribute to that? And why are we starting to go from pop-up villages to permanent hubs? And one of the things that we've observed is that these permanent villages actually provide a kind of a defensive social layer for Ethereum, for open source builders, and for the community, in that it's a lot harder to pretend to be someone that you're not, or to be, say, a grants farmer if you're living within a tight social graph and there's a permanent community that, let's say, proliferates that tight social graph. And so as we've had many pop-up villages in many different places, we're starting to see that these hubs can actually be places that defend Ethereum and defend the values that we want to live by and help us accelerate the things that we want more of, more decentralization, more governance experiments, more open source work and things like that, and enable that high upside experimentation that will help us hopefully prevent the doom scenarios. There's a concept in sociology called free social spaces, and it's an interesting one to look at in terms of understanding why these are important. Free social spaces don't need to be physical spaces per se, but they often are. And what they represent is essentially a sheltered place that is free from some of the barriers of wider society, allows radical social innovation to actually take place in a protected environment for those things to gather momentum and be refined, and then eventually, when they're more ready for a wider society, actually be scaled to that level. And we think that these hubs actually represent free social spaces for Ethereum and for dacc. Just a couple of examples of the kinds of things that work in these hubs so far and from the Zuzulu experiment so far. So one, as I kind of mentioned, the legitimacy concentrator effect. These hubs allow kind of these short pathways between people and a tight social graph. Two, there's this very strong sense that people are much more easily able to test with other users and to have fast iteration, often because many builders are in the same place and iterating. There's a lot of integrations and partnerships that happen at an early stage, and people learn from each other. It's, as I said, a sandbox for the more radical innovation. It enables testing of things that people might otherwise not use because the UX is quite difficult. You've kind of got this captive audience of people that are willing to experiment with things that are more radical. It enables cross-pollination between high signal audiences, and it also gives you a sort of a captive audience for distribution and scaling. So now that I hope we all agree here that this is something that's good, what is actually needed to gather and accelerate dacc builders in these hubs? So we had a look into what actually makes people, for example, move to Silicon Valley, and why do people move to other hubs of a greater scale. Three things, if you boil it down: access, lifestyle, and runway. Access, referring to being able to access talent, particularly also access investors, and also the kind of advisors that can really level up your company. Lifestyle is important, despite all of our tendencies to burn out and do crazy things. People are caring more and more about actually having a comfortable life, and places like San Francisco actually do have a nice natural environment, and the most attractive places do have this. And then thirdly, runway. Quite simply, most people that move to SF are looking first and foremost for runway and investment. They want to be able to raise money quickly and to spend their time building and not looking for cash. And that's something that's super important for us to recreate in these permanent hubs if we want to be able to attract top-tier builders. Zuzulu, just like as a bit of an example of this, what have they done so far? There's been, and these are only a few examples, but there's been pop-up cities in many different cities across the world. They've attracted usually 200 builders at a time over between 4 and, let's say, 4 weeks and 3 months. And you could say that we've fulfilled the hypothesis of, can we actually attract builders to this thing? So once we got past that, can we attract builders, and past the prototype of pop-up villages, the thinking moved to the permanent stuff. And Vitalik was in Switzerland at the beginning of the year, and he sort of posed this question to us collectively. How do we build these places? How do we make them attractive and accessible to dacc builders? As an example, Switzerland is incredibly expensive. How do we make this thing investable? How do we, for example, potentially subsidize builders so that they can come here? How do we, if we're subsidizing builders, how do we make this financially sustainable? And how do we also, if we're getting, say, investment into these things, how do we ensure that builders actually retain agency over their village and aren't just owned by a bunch of external investors? And so we've been working on some tokenomics and investable models for these permanent hubs, and have a few design principles here. we are, given the Swiss long history of Swiss federalism, we're inspired by many of the Swiss values: autonomy, subsidiarity, direct democracy, and neutrality. We're also very much inspired by Ethereum values and, in particular, open source. And we want to invest in and subsidize open source builders to build the things that are meaningful and may prevent doom scenarios. And some of those principles that we're looking at with the tokenomics are: we want it to be investable, mission aligned. We also want to reward both capital and reputation. So not just you have a stake in this, or you have a stake in governance, or you have an upside if you have capital that you can invest, but also if you somehow invest your reputation and the legitimacy that you've built up as a builder or in some other way in the ecosystem, that you can sort of invest that in the ecosystem too and be rewarded for that. We want something that protects against capture. Unfortunately, with some of our early learnings with these experiments were that people really love to control things if they think that there's something in it for them. And so creating things that are defensive by also protecting them against governance capture is really important. And then, of course, not just designing something for Switzerland that only works there, but trying to design something that works in principle for any hub and can be repeated to create a transnational network of these permanent hubs. So where are we at in terms of our validation? The three core hypotheses that we have. One, these village-like environments can mimic the network effects of Silicon Valley. We feel very clear in that hypothesis being strongly validated by Zuzulu so far. Second one, permanent hubs can enable acceleration and cross-pollination between disciplines, and that will be something that's attractive to our target audience. We feel very confident from the feedback that we've had, from the opt-ins that we've had, that is actually the case, but it is not perfectly proven yet, as not really any of these permanent hubs with full live-in capacity have been tested yet. And then finally, and very critically, permanent hubs can be extremely financially successful and provide subsidies to builders by accelerating frontier tech and having a focus on dacc and open source. And that is the highest risk of our hypotheses so far. We do very much believe in it, but remains to be validated and fully tested over the long term. What is like our take on how this should work and how it will work and how it can be successful? We're looking at these as a mixture of co-working and living hubs with a dacc-focused and open source accelerator. So it won't be just people living there permanently and you're like a happy village. There will be some of that, but we do believe that the constant fresh blood coming in for different cohorts or different acceleration programs, fellowships, residencies, etc., is really valuable to the overall ethos. And there we're looking at campuses like Harvard and Stanford with their endowment funds. They have people living there long term, but there's also this constant change and fresh blood coming in and cross-pollination from international universities. You have professors coming in, and all of those kind of students and professors and things are funded also and subsidized by the endowment fund of the universities. And that's really the key part here, is creating a self-sustaining endowment fund similar to what Harvard or Stanford have. Hard to do potentially, because those are big endowment funds, and how do we get there? That is the billion-dollar question. And so the question a little bit to figure out is, can we get the right investment model for this, and can having an open source or open core ethos really provide the ROI required to be financially successful? And I feel like I don't have a huge amount of time to go into this, but I think that people kind of have the misconception that open source means that you can't make any money. And examples like Ethereum and Uniswap, or let's say Safe, are show that investors that put money into open source can make significant upside. There's also just a wider point that Alex Danko made in his speech about the Canadian startup, not his speech, his essay about the Canadian startup ecosystem. He says, like, good angels are playing an infinite game and they often make a ton of money, leading to the perplexing advice for outsiders that the way to make money angel investing is to not set out trying to make money. And personally, I found that very much to be a true thing. if you invest in the people and you invest in the long term, there's actually almost always an upside and a good one. And beyond just the financial modeling of these things, which we are also doing, I think that's an important kind of mindset to have, is that if we create the value, if we invest in the value, if we invest in what you might say the fertile soil, then we will get the plants that are growing in them and the fruit will be born. So that's kind of how we're thinking about these things. And our job now is piloting like a dacc accelerator in Switzerland. And figuring out exactly what that will look like. I think one important point for us is that we're calling it the Zuhaus token, the Zuhaus token in English. It's a bit of a play on words with German. The one really key important thing that we see in this is that there's like this social stake or this reputational stake, and there's a kind of like legitimacy mining, or you can stake your legitimacy and receive token rewards, not just stake your, let's say, financial capital. And that's something that we're exploring how to do right now. And I think another important thing that maybe people don't immediately imagine is that we want to have a focus on long-term ownership. And there we're being inspired also by, for example, Swiss real estate cooperatives, which are very successful and have existed for a long time. 25% of apartments in Zurich, for example, are actually owned by real estate cooperatives. So they're something that is financially successful, but also they manage to provide subsidies and lower cost living to people that are in them. And so we're looking at those kinds of things for inspiration of how do we create something that is both financially successful and valuable to the people living in it. And the ultimate hope is that we can create this self-reinforcing loop where like more legitimacy coming into these economies, more people building amazing open source tech equals stronger hub economies, adding to the token value and leading to more capital that can be reinvested into open source and public goods. These are just some of the topics that we are hoping to focus on with our hub in Switzerland. I think important to highlight is that if we're building a transnational network of these things, that not every hub will have exactly the same focus. Some may specialize in one area or another. Switzerland, for example, is particularly strong in the ZK and privacy space. Obviously, because of the cultural background, we see it as really great for governance and democracy and experimenting in that space. And say Zurich has an incredible pool of AI talent coming out of ETH, so those are things that we can really do well there. But if you're thinking about, could I have one of these permanent hubs in my city, it definitely pays to think like what would actually work potentially, what are the strengths that you have in your city and in your ecosystem that could be played on to really create a thriving hub. And if you're interested in that, like feel free to come and reach out after this and talk to me. So what are we up to now? We hosted a pop-up city in May in this beautiful alpine village called Laax. And they have a wonderful resort there called Rox Resort, where you have long-term living apartments or like vacation apartments, but you also have a hotel, you have event space, you have a number of things that actually make it perfect for the MVP of a village. And they're very excited about working with us to test this and even bringing some of their like hotel functionalities on chain, or even potentially giving us, say, a building or something of that sort to actually start already MVPing this village in real life there in Laax. So that's something we're already working on. There's a few other things in the works too. And the hope is that next year we will be at the point of having a permanent hub that we can live in long term and really start building this out with. So yeah, if you're excited about these things, keep in mind that we probably will be starting a 3-month residency focused particularly on privacy, identity, and AI safety next year. We'll probably be having around 20 to 30 really focused residents there and building things out with the focus on what is the technology we would actually need in this permanent hub to enable everything that we want to do. And so, yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much for being here this morning, and arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。続いては シュテファン・クックスさんです。Now, please welcome our next presenter, Mr. Stefan Cooks. The stage is yours.
Good morning. So after this light and exciting topic we heard right now, I have to make it a little bit darker. So some days ago, there was a big NPM supply chain attack. Did any one of you recognize this? It was an attack which could have a very strong impact on the Web3 community. Thanks to Jan Sterk from Germany, who discovered this attack, and a lot of people in the community, this attack was detected very quickly and solved, so that the impact was not that strong, but it could have been very intense. So, but now let's deep a little bit inside this attack and see what impact it has on the Web3 community and the Web3 development, and see what we could and should do better in the future. Before we start, some words about trust. So trust is something very special. So I trust my wife, I trust my friends, I even trust my business partners. But when it comes to the Web3 development, we should be very careful about trust. So often we talk about trustless systems. So even if I use this word, it's not really correct. So there is no trustless system, but we have also to talk about trust assumptions. So first, of course, when we talk about the users of our applications, we should not trust that these users are not doing anything malicious or try to do something what they should not do in our apps. I think it's clear. When it comes to hardware and operation systems of our computers, we barely have to trust that they are doing what they should do. We don't have a lot of impact. Of course, we can test, but we have not that much influence on it. But now when it comes to cloud providers, information providers, service providers, should we trust them? Should we trust what they deliver to us? We should not. We should always try to verify and validate what information we get from them. And the other point is software dependencies. We are using, in most of our softwares, dependencies to other packages. Now, we heard today already about open source software. It's a very great idea. I am a real big fan of open source. If we use such libraries, we have to think about how much trust can we give into the systems. And it depends really on what software we are writing. Now, if I'm writing a dashboard where I show something, of course, if a library breaks, it's not nice. My software might not work as it is expected. But if I'm building a security-relevant application, I don't have to trust any software component, any information I get from somewhere. I always have to verify. Most of our Web3 applications at the moment are written in JavaScript. And to be honest, I never understood why we chose JavaScript as one of the main languages to build such applications. So I worked for several years in the automotive industry. And when we deployed software, for instance, in the cars, the rules, what needs to be done and what software needs to do are very, very strong. And there was a lot of rules that prevented something like dynamic code execution. So when we go to JavaScript, actually this language was developed for a complete different reason. It was developed to build nice animations, to support in-page interactions, and so on. So to make our websites more attractive, more nice, more convenient. But now we are building a lot of different applications and even security relevant applications with JavaScript. So what are the problems when we look at JavaScript regarding secure applications? We have the dynamic code execution. You can inject code and execute it without having this code available during the compile time. So we can override global information, global variables, global functions, and so change the behavior of the application from outside. So we don't have sandboxes, and we have a lot of dependencies. So everyone who ever used NPM packages here would have seen this number, how many dependencies a package has. And if you are using a lot of different packages, you have maybe tens or even hundreds of direct or indirect dependencies. Back to the automotive industry, when I wanted to use a single function from a package in my software, I had to prove that the whole package is tested every time. We are not doing this in JavaScript, actually. We are using these packages how they come. And we trust that they are not infected by malicious code. So what happened some days before? And we will see exactly these things I just talked about JavaScript were the reasons for the foundation of this attack. On September 8, there was some information available in the social media that we should stop using our wallets. We should not do any signatures, we should not do any interactions with blockchain, because there was something happening and there was some malicious code injected into widely used NPM packages. So how did this happen? There was a targeted phishing attack to a developer who was involved in a lot of different packages. And they injected some code which changed the addresses of transactions so that the receiver address was replaced by a similar looking address from the attacker. So this code was injected from these external packages. There were a lot of different packages already infected with this code, and by using these packages, this malicious code was added to your application. So, and all the operation was in the background. There was no interaction with the user interface. That means everything which happened in the background was hidden from the user. He could not see it. The interesting thing was, there was no RPC infected, there was no wallet infected, there was no seed phrase stolen, but transactions sent money to the wrong address. It was just the code which was used by the app and which was trusted, this was infected. So what kind of packages were infected? So in the first side we would think, okay, if they infected some cryptographic packages or some Web3 packages, this could have impact. But if you go to this list of all these packages, you will see these are packages for font manipulation, for color manipulation, for some debug functionalities, and so on. None of these packages were crypto packages. So that means these are packages only used in the user interface, but by using these packages, the malicious code was injected in the application and did some very bad behavior. So how does it exactly work? When one of these packages was used, then it replaced some global functions, this fetch function, for instance, this global fetch function, or the Web3 provider, and manipulated them. And then when there was an interaction from the application with the wallet, for instance, you had a wallet, you signed a transaction, you want to send 1 ETH to an address, then this malicious code detected here is a transaction, and they replaced the receiver address by a similar looking address from the attacker. And then the user received this information in his wallet. And if the user would not read exactly if this is the right receiver address, he would sign this attack, or would sign this transaction. And by doing this, there would be a regular transaction. This would be sent to the blockchain. The money would be sent, but not to the receiver, but to the attacker's address. So that means even if I use a hardware wallet, it wouldn't make any difference, because if I don't read exactly what is the receiver address and click too quickly sign, this transaction would have been signed. So, and as I said, everything of this went in the background. So the user interface, maybe your nice wallet, would show all the information how you expect it, and only at this time when it comes to your wallet, where you do the signature, there was a little difference in the address. So why could this happen? So what was the reason that something like this could happen? So we have a lot of trust assumptions and a chains of trust in our applications, and especially also in our Web3 applications. So first, we are using packages from NPM. And as I showed, even if I use only a simple, small package for UI manipulation, it could have impact to any other position in my code. The other thing is we often trust RPC providers that they really deliver us the right information. I will not go in detail with this. I will talk later this day about the topic trusting RPC providers. But this is also a problem we have in most of our Web3 applications. Yeah, and often we notice there are transactions generated and signed and sent without testing if the signed transaction is really this what it should be. So what do we really need to do to prevent this from happening? We must see that we give attackers not only a way to break our assumptions. If we have a lot of trust assumptions in our code, it's very easy for the attacker to do something which is not that what we want to have in our applications. So I have to repeat, don't trust, always verify everything. Now we have to verify any aspect in our application and do not try or to build trust chains in our applications. So what can we do to detect such a misbehavior like it was in this attack? So first, we should not trust any input we get from an RPC provider. Unfortunately, this would not have saved us in this attack, but this is something which is also very important. The other point is we should never send untested transactions to the network. So even if I build a transaction in my application, I have to check after this transaction is signed if this is exactly what I want to do. I have to simulate it locally, not on the server, because then I have an attack vector again. I have to locally check if the transaction is really doing what it should do. And this by a local simulation. So, but how can we do this? It's quite hard to run a full node in every application. So when we go back to the early days of Ethereum, maybe some of you remember the Mist browser. So when you were running the Mist browser, which was the execution environment for smart contracts and for decentralized applications, it had an included Ethereum node, and it started to synchronize it, and then you had your local node, and you had all the information to be trustless. But as we know, Vitalik talked about this 2 days ago, it's way too big for most applications. You cannot run a full node in your web application, in your mobile application, it's not possible. Then we have these light clients, and light clients are very interesting and nice evolution, So light clients don't synchronize the whole chain, only some parts of it, the block headers and some information which are really needed. They are way more lightweight than a full node, but for most applications, they are not feasible. Now, if you have a web application and you run a light client in it, it needs to be online all the time, or you have to sync all the missing blocks when you start. If you have a smartphone application, your users will be not happy if you are synchronizing all the day, even if it's only a small piece of header in the block header. So what can we do? We should, or we need to use stateless but fully verifying clients. That means we have to use clients which can be able to get information, get proofs that this information is correct, and no synchronization, no state, but full trustless verification. And these stateless clients also need to verify all information before they are sent to the blockchain. So with Colibri Stateless, we build such a stateless client. There are others also in development, like Helios is a light client, a little bit more heavyweight, and others also providing technologies we can use to do this verification in our applications, and we need to do this. So how this would or could have been prevented by using Colibri? So in case of this attack, it would be possible to detect this change. So in this small piece of code, you see that a Colibri client is created. He gets this information that every transaction needs to be verified. And that means if the transaction is generated, it's sent to be signed in the wallet. And before it's delivered to the network, it's again checked. And we verify that the intention and the content of this transaction is still the same. And in the case of this attack, it would be easy to detect that the receiver address was changed, and that's why this transaction is not a valid transaction. And so the transaction would never have been sent to the network. So with Colibri, I already mentioned, this is a stateless client, completely not synchronizing with blockchain, just getting the information, getting the proofs. In the other talk I have at 2 o'clock, I will go a little bit deeper into the mechanism. We can use this client already to really have trustless connection to blockchain by validating all the information we get from the blockchain and simulation everything locally before we send it. Yeah, let me give a short summary. So this attack was a very critical attack. Thanks to the quick action of the community and a good portion of luck, it was detected very quickly so that we could stop it before a lot of impact could be seen in the network. So that means even if this was a critical attack, the impact was not that bad, but it could be in this. We never can fully protect us from these supply chain attacks, but we should do as much as we can do to prevent this from having a big impact. So one thing everyone can do, reduce your dependencies. The best application is if it has 0 dependencies. Of course, this is not possible, but if we use some dependencies, we have to check them. So if you say, that's not feasible, and if I use these packages, I have, let's say, 20 dependencies, I cannot check every dependency, then you should not use these packages in security-relevant applications. We also should introduce new methods to have in our CI these checks. The CI should really verify that the versions that are used are audited versions which are secure. Yeah. Never use unverified code, never use unverified transaction data, never use information from the blockchain which is not verified. And if you verify, always do it locally in your device, in your application, so that you can be sure no attack vector can manipulate this data. Once again, don't trust, verify everything and always. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。プレゼンテーションをご紹介させていただきましょう。プレゼンターはハリー・ンさんです。Now, please welcome our next presenter, Mr. Harry Ng. Mr. Harry Ng, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Harry Ng. I'm a Smart Contract Lead at Option Labs, and today I'm going to briefly talk about some challenges of decentralized rollout. But first, let me explain what is Option Labs like in the Arbitrum ecosystem. So Option Labs is a service provider to the Arbitrum Foundation, which acts as a steward to the Arbitrum DAO. Arbitrum DAO governs the Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova chains, and like Option Labs provide technical expertise to the foundation and DAO, such as like shipping upgrade to this chain when like we need to upgrade, like say we have like a Ethereum hard fork or new EIPs. So as I said, I mean, maybe a lot of people already know, Arbitrum 1 is like one of the leading decentralized rollup, and thanks to our friends at L2Bit, like we can look at this dashboard about like some summary of the characteristic of Arbitrum 1. And you can see that Arbitrum 1 is actually a stage 1 rollup according to their definition. And if you look at the pie at the right side, you can see that we have every slice is in green color, except for one slide called the exit window. So what is the exit window? Like, in simple words, you can think about exit window is like a time lock for rollups. Like, you allow user on this rollup to exit the rollup when they don't like a certain change. For example, if the owner try to run or like they try to like make a change to how the bridge is like custodying their fund, users should have like a window of time to exit the chain and even if the sequencer is censoring. But how do you actually guarantee they have like certain amount of time to exit? Like it's basically a mix of waiting and also like some protocol level like censorship resistant like quirks such that you make sure like if someone want to exit, they will have the window and also have the like ability to exit the chain. And why are we not a stage 2 rollout right now? Is that because if you look at L2Base like requirement on the right, like bottom right side, you can see that they actually require a 30-day exit window if the change is not related to a bug. And we can also look at the life cycle of AIP, which is Arbitrum Improvement Proposal. And like, due to the governance latency, people have to vote, like we have a challenge period because we are optimistic rollup, there's exit window requirement, there are also like censorship resistant like requirement. And AIP actually will take at least 35 days from the proposal creation on chain to execution. And that is not including the time of a potential quorum extension of 2 days. Like we have an optional snapshot temperature check of 1 week. And also like there are the audit time for any code change, which can be weeks. And then of course there will be development time for any change we want to make. And you can see that like it's actually like really like a slow process once your rollup is decentralized, and it's actually decentralized because it's like take a lot of time to ship any change. So why are we talking about L1 hard fork? What is the implication of rollup? There are usually like 3 types of change that can impact a rollup. The first kind of change is basically L1 breaking change. Sometimes like L1 decide to ship certain breaking change that like on L1, and then some example would be like 7702, which like changed the behavior on like in the past. For example, we can detect if you are EOA by using text origin and message standard. You cannot now. And then like in the upcoming Fusaka hard fork, we also have like a new change that's going to introduce a transaction gas limit cap. So these are like some of the L1 breaking change can impact rollup because like, for example, the proofing system of the rollup may actually need more gas than the transaction cap, and that's something we have to evaluate. There's another class of like difference is like L2, I have to implement new feature of L1. Like basically any like EL change we have to implement on L2. And like some of the example can be also be 7702 because like when L1 have 7702, like user would usually expect to have like 7702 across all the chain, and then they can use account abstraction everywhere. But like because like of the process I talk about, it's usually really hard for us to ship that like when like mainnet ship the same feature, and then we will usually left a window that they just cannot use this on Arbitrum 1. And the third type is basically about L3. L3 is like Arbitrum's term, Orbit chains, Arbitrum term for like roll up on a roll up. And then there are additional consideration when trying to implement EIP on this chain because of how like the parent chain is different. It's not actually L1, it's L2. So you have to consider how L2 works when you implement those chains. And there's like additional complexity when we have to implement those features. So like to recap, basically there's like 3 types of like challenges. First is timing, like do we want to like ship before mainnet or like at the same time or after? Like it's really hard like actually like to ship like at the same time as mainnet because of the 35 minimum delay. Usually it's like 2 months to be honest because like we actually have to write code, like you know AI haven't replaced that yet, but like that's a thing. There's also like sometimes they make last-minute change to what EIP is included in a hard fork, or like what is the actual implementation. Like for example, if they figure out like discover a bug after the testnet fork, then they have to make change. Or like for example, famously like in the past we have like a EOF removed it completely from the last fork, and then that's if we like decide to front run mainnet and prepare everything like in advance, then we will basically have to scratch everything and then like redo. And it's like the problem, like what usually is that why we want to ship as close to mainnet as possible is because like user expectation. Like in a rollup centric roadmap, like user want to have the same experience across different chain, like, but if like, for example, if Arbitrum 1 don't have 7702 enabled in day 1, it's really like not the best experience for user, and then that can make like the experience worse. And this is going to be even harder when the exit window is set to 7 days to fulfill the stage 2 requirement, because like when I say 35 days, it's actually like built around a 10-day exit window like assumption. But if we want to make it 30 days, it's going to be like at least 60-day kind of like scale we're talking about, and then it's going to make the thing even harder. So where do we go from here, right? Like, I mean, as Arbitrum 1 and other roll-up progress and want to be more decentralized, like they want to like move away from like having an on-chain DAO voting on things, but like then having another multi-sig to execute. That's like the easy way of doing decentralized stuff, but we all know that it's not that decentralized, right? Because like those multi-sig usually don't have like very like obligation, like at least they can kind of do whatever they want, like, and you want to do something more close to what the Arbitrum DAO is doing, which is like allowing the DAO to have complete control of everything on chain, and then there's also a security console which can make change like immediately, but like we usually like basically like security console is built for like security issue, like shipping and mainnet like EIP is usually not a security issue, so like we usually don't use the security console for this kind of stuff unless it's, for example, the type of thing I talk about, a L1 breaking change that may actually impact how the L2 like security. So how do we solve this? I feel like I don't really have a good answer, to be honest. Like, decentralized is really hard. Like, we are still early. We are still figuring out. Like, Arbitrum DAO is one of the biggest DAO right now, and then, but like, there are still a lot of like issue we have discovered like in the recent time, like how hard it is to run a DAO to make sure everything is decentralized, but also functional. But I feel like there's like a few areas that we might be able to improve. Like one being the EIP process. Like we should like try to avoid breaking change. Like that's like I don't think we like usually like try to ship breaking change, but like sometimes like this thing happen, and then like we should like have better like tracking on like what like EIP might break a certain protocol or not. We should also aim to see if we can have like more clear signal on when is the hard fork actually finalized to avoid any last minute like change. DOF probably one of the good example, but like Ethereum itself is also decentralized, so like it's also something that really hard to figure out. For the DAO side, I think there is probably something we can do from the to improve the DAO governance process. Although I currently don't see it like something that can be changed materially, because like a lot of like delay is basically just giving people time to vote and like exit, and you don't really want to like say, hey, I'm just going to give this multi-sig the ability to like ship whatever change they want. Like it's also not very decentralized sounding, so maybe not something we want to do. User education is probably one of the things we can do. Like maybe we should let users know that L2 actually, because of the security properties, they should let behind L1. Like maybe they should not expect L2 to always have the same feature set as immediately as L1 ship them. But that's also hard. Like I mean, even if you educate them, they like the UX is still bad. So like probably not the best solution. I hope like someone like maybe we can also think about this, because like I feel like usually like these like we want everything to be decentralized, but we don't usually think about too much about how these things operate once they are decentralized. Like we have like a long way like to go before we can make like L2's rollups like fully decentralized, optimistic or not. I feel like it's like a problem like for all. It's actually not a problem just for rollup. It's probably all for all other dApps too. Like because like if you're decentralized, you will come at a time where like you will need a lot of time to ship an upgrade, and then it's very hard to like anticipate like what this EIP is going to incur, and then how can you time your upgrade with those. So thank you. Like yeah.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。いたしました。それではプレゼンテーションを再開してまいります。続きましては鈴木雄大さんです。Thank you for waiting. We will now resume the presentation. Now, please welcome our next presenter, Mr. 雄大鈴木。それでは鈴木さん、よろしくお願いいたします。
Hi, hello everyone, ZM. Thank you for coming today and for listening to my talk. So hopefully, this talk will be one of the unique talk you will listen through this EDCOM. And also, I just wanted to say thank you to EDCOM organizing. This is a really great event, and thank you so much for inviting me to the speaker. So, I will start about my introduction first. So I'm Yudai Suzuki. I'm co-founder of Fracton Ventures, which is not a VC, or this is an incubator based in Japan. My background is a startup incubator since 2017-18. Since then, I saw first generation of blockchain startup. Everyone called blockchain startup at the time. So I supported blockchain startup first generation in 2017. So since then, I was a big fan of I'm a big fan of blockchain technology also decentralized infrastructure technologies, and I introduced so many blockchain first generation of blockchain startup Japanese founders to VCs investors in Japan market, but everyone couldn't understand this potential. One of the guys could try to realize that such a kind of similar application of chain analysis at the time is 2017, or maybe you guys know chain analysis are recently officially signed with FBI or any big American agency using this technology as well. But there's so many VC couldn't understand this point. Where is the user who will use this technology? So you have a blockchain, it's a scam. So it was my beginning story. So since then, I have been starting to, we have to create really strong ecosystem for Ethereum in Japan. I just started a founder community first in Tokyo, and for all of blockchain, and especially for Ethereum protocol founders, I collected in there, and do a drinking or networking event together, and for knowing each other. So this is my starting line. So Fractum, this is a Tokyo-based incubator, and it's not only for Japanese founders. We are providing incubation cohort as a cohort style to our more widely people as like Asian founders too. So the Fractum has three things we are doing. First one is a Fractum incubation, which is a flagship incubation model. So we are providing cohort style, means 6 months, 3 months, cohort style acceleration incubation model, or plus educational content, or plus super or interesting or innovators, mentoring opportunities, or we are providing through this program. So Fractum enterprise teams, so recently we created enterprise teams for supporting more enterprise. So how our enterprise or big corporate, especially in Japan too, can understand the value of ETH. So there is a two meaning of Ethereum. So Ethereum is a world computer that it can covered by Fractal incubation through this protocol incubation. So there is a ETH is money. ETH money is covered by this Fractal enterprise. So this is the things. And also we are co-organizer of East Tokyo, and we are organizer of DAO Tokyo. Yeah, hopefully so many guys already attended to this year's DAO East Tokyo as well. So it could be successfully we finished this event. Hopefully we will be back to Tokyo again, and hopefully Edcon will keep providing our event in Osaka as any collaboration that we'd like to see. And we are hosting monthly meetup in Tokyo. And if you come back to Tokyo, please say hi to Fractal team. So if you want to talk about something, if you want to share your research, please use our meetup opportunities. This is for yours. It's not my handle. So this is for yours. So Fractal is doing Fractal is doing Ethereum incubation. Is our Asian protocol founders and the incubator over 40 protocols. Is our target is very simple. After hackathon and to angel and pre-seed round. So normally this is super tough, hardest timing for crypto founders. Anyone will not support normally. You are just challenger. Oh, you are doing things. Okay, good luck. That's it. So who will support strongly for these early stage founders? This is the things. I will skip it. The cohort 5 will start very soon. We are expanded to a deadline of this application. If you are building very new protocol and you are in super early stage, please apply to Fractal website. So please find our Twitter or X, or our handle is We Can DAO It. So please search We Can DAO It. So I will skip it. So back to the main topic. So we are Ethereum. So everyone is our Ethereum. So why we love Ethereum? I think there is 3 reasons. I personally too. The first one is a decentralization. Decentralization has a lot of meaning. The node client level decentralization, geographically level decentralization, and or any other or any other or any specific or name of organization couldn't provide or the central or top-down leadership model in the market or something like this. So censorship. So we need this point as well too, because Ethereum is for everyone. I posted this word yesterday. Ethereum is for everyone means any single person or we should not to shut out them or from network. It means someone carefully AML, okay, you can use GKP for checking AML, right? So Ethereum itself, they shouldn't do shut out someone from the network. And the last one is a positive sub-coordination. So, sorry. So maybe my internet, my connect is not good. Okay, so the positive sub-coordination is the most important things to do it. So everyone is standing on open source based culture. So open source based culture means every protocol can forkable or from source code, and you can use the code. So and as a tokenomics too, if token incentive model is bringing to new value and outside of the community into the new community or to own community, the community will grow. So everyone is just talking about we have a community, we have a community. Is this real human? This is a program, so many bots. Maybe you guys are hold over 20 wallets or something in person, right? So more important things is that how we can create a more positive sum loop or looping or through the protocol design, through the token design as well. So big question, what are we missing in the Ethereum ecosystem? When I say Ethereum ecosystem, it's completely aligned to Ethereum L1 plus L2s as well. I can describe as well. And so next question is Ethereum ecosystem means equal EVM ecosystem? I personally think, sorry for any other EVM guys, I personally think EVM is not an ecosystem. It's just there is just a Solidity developer. Solidity developer can write Solidity for virtual machine can run using Solidity language. This is just an EVM. The EVM is completely open source. Everyone can use it. The EVM, if fork from Ethereum EVM, Ethereum virtual machine to any other chain, it can work. It doesn't mean to actually ecosystem. I'm personally thinking so. So this is my imagine. So there is an Ethereum L1, there is an Ethereum L2s, and the specific side chain. When I say specific side chain, in personally, I think Gnosis, Polygon, they are in. So this is my imagination. So everyone can easily to say, we are in EVM ecosystem together, right, bro? No, this is not an ecosystem. So this is real ecosystem, Ethereum ecosystem. So as a left question is that where are Solidity developers in the market? So maybe just our research has made by Electric Capital. They are reporting every year for where the developer are in the market. So there maybe Solana, other chain, or internet computer, all interesting. Aptos, base is the ecosystem, Ethereum ecosystem as well. So Sui, near, okay. So I don't know. I think this is just a developer number. So it's not. It doesn't mean to Solidity number, but also where is the Solidity developers? If Solidity developers keep developing some Solidity or using Solidity for EVMs in other chain outside of Ethereum ecosystem, I want to say, please come back to here. How we can do it? So how can we EVM developer return to the Ethereum? This is a program. This is a question for you all. So why don't they build on Ethereum? Please think about 1 minute. Why? What do you think? Why don't they build on Ethereum? Maybe other chain has lots of grant opportunities, printing money, something. I don't know. So, and their partnership offers, we can easily to say co-marketing together, bro. Okay, it's fucking good. So my interest is that if EVM developer means Solidity developers, rethinking about what is the meaning of Ethereum development, what is the meaning, what is the value of development for Ethereum, if seriously they will start to rethink again, I think they will go back. My answer is that no place to get serious mentorship for super early protocol founders. The reason is that, so the point is that, so many early developers looking for opportunity as like us grant, as like a partnership. The reason is that, like, you don't know any new protocol names. The new protocol comes in the market. There is a really serious founder. They are developing over 20 years writing code. This is crazy. This is good. But also, even the situation, you don't know the name of the protocol, right? You will not use the protocol. So if they say, we partnership with blah, blah, blah foundation, ABC Foundation, ABC Foundation, ABC Bravos, something like this. So we got a grant or from this hackathon, this finalist, something like this. Okay, so or finally a foundation approved your name, and also maybe someone will get interest to use this application, this protocol as well. So why I say this answer is my opinion is that the other incubator, Ethereum incubator, we always thinking about where is a good place to provide a mentorship for super early stage founders. So I am believing all of attendees in here is maybe half a percent is a speaker in the EdCom, over half a percent, I think so. So now you are a speaker on EdCom, but you was timing. You were timing to just a super beginning phase of the protocol developer, protocol founder, right? So at the time, who supported you? So how? So early stage protocol founder need opportunities. Need opportunity means if new protocol creation activity comes from hackathon, they have to start to thinking about is this a good idea? Should I spend my life for keep building this protocol? Something like this. Okay, you have to share this idea to really good mentors. So I think these guys, these attendees are very, very good. If you have a motivation to do a mentorship for Ethereum ecosystem from tomorrow, maybe new founder, we will see more new founders. And they need, they need mentors. Mentors is not just angel investors, but also are more collaborate together and share their networking resources, trust resources. And I know him guy, the guy understands this point, you have to talk with him. Like that. So someone should introduce or bring new founder to core deeply ecosystem players and start to doing a chat. The type of opportunity is really, really important for everyone. And the last point is that they need a grant or angel investment too. So it depends on the case, but you don't need the money, you have a money, and you can keep developing. This is the best. But also realistically, there is a timing to also we can easily to face financial program. So we have an idea, we have a motivation, we have a good team, including developers, but we don't have a money. Okay, you have to raise the money. So one question, big question, especially for early stage funding or fast funding, is that the investor, early investor, angel investor too, then can easily to ask who or which ecosystem, which player approved your name in the ecosystem. So it's just a bit of hurt. It's just I think this is just a chicken and egg program. Someone should approve. I'm supporting this protocol, but also before coming to this information, so investor cannot say yes. Okay, I am personally like you, but personally like you means I can't invest to your protocol directly on that. So what we are doing in the space. So Fractal Ventures is continuing to provide 1% of token offer to incubated protocols. So we are not investors. We will not invest. We haven't invested, but we just offered 1% of future token from each of incubated protocols. Someone said, "Oh, you guys doing voluntary work in the space?" Kind of, yeah. But why I'm believing this model is good is that so other incubator or accelerator in the market in Web3 in whole of crypto, they are offering around like a 4 to 6% token to each project. Maybe you guys can understand 4 to 6% is quite big number. You know, maybe like a roughly 20% of equity or something, the similar meaning. It's too risky to do this. And the more important things is that why we are offering 1% of token to each project. The reason is that we are not an investor. We want to get more position as a side of like a more co-founding member level for you guys to keep supporting your project. This is a sense. So we started to thinking about this model. We have been providing this model since 2021. Over 4 years, we already incubated over 45 protocol in the market, or mainly comes from Japan, but like, not only from Japan. So recently, we started a new DAO or alliance, the initiative. It's called East Reactor. East Reactor is like a new DAO formation, a DAO-driven incubator collective for Ethereum. Why it needs? Because like please search on like East Reactor or ETH without E or reactor or East Reactor on X. There is a X account. Only 100 members following right now. It's super beginning timing. So why it needs? Fracton offering this model in many days, and also we are also thinking about how we can do more global level same action in the market. So East Reactor has recently started with these communities. So from Japan, Fracton will join in this DAO. Suchi or Blockchain Labs, which is behind East Vietnam, they will join. A Narrative from South Korea will join. East Sydney has joined. And also East Cinco de Mayo, which is a Mexican community, so they have joined. And East Panama community, it's called East Canal, has joined. And the Napoli East, which is the Italian community, has joined. And the East Belgrade, which is a Serbian community, it has joined too. So what will we do? This is East Reactor is a global DAO formation through by our East Reactor umbrella powered by incubator collectives, especially for Ethereum aligned incubator collectives. So the meaning of this there is a lot of hackathon in globally. So you can jump on to the new hackathon as a mentor, judge, or something like this. So behind of the hackathon, there's so many regional Ethereum leader player in the market. We want to onboard them into the one place to work as a DAO member, DAO formation together to do an incubation and offer 1% of token in regional market everywhere. So technically, if we reach to the onboard every global country into East Reactor brand can get global access through this global East Reactor brand name. This is a DAO. So this is the formation of East Reactor actually do. So regional incubator join in this DAO. The regional incubators means behind of the East Hackathon or East Incubator they are already doing. And they run an incubation program together and globally. So through this East Reactor names, East Reactor brand, okay, so we can run East Reactor or Mexican or incubation program like this. And the request incubator seems to allocate 1% of token to do it. And one of the goodest motivation for us incubators is that we can share more idea, more regional opportunities, collaborate, discussing with incubators circles. This is one super unique opportunity to do it. Normally, Japanese incubator like us don't have a motivation to share what's going on in Japan. So what type of protocol we should incubate from Japan with international people. Any other ideas, normally we don't have a motivation to share the idea to any other countries' incubators. Sometimes we can take it's not an enemy, but it's just a bit of business. It's not doesn't mean to business synergy normally, But each reactor can create more aligned incubators, collective success. This is focusing on. So this is the things of each reactor's model. So first, as I mentioned earlier, so incubators, they're normally, as our Ethereum incubators, we are always supporting very, very early stage founders. They started from hackathon. They tried to hackathon so many times, and they're starting to build teams, and just finalizing the ideas, and also here listen or research everything, and doing for finalizing of this protocol architecture. Okay, this is good. So maybe these information, who is our underrated talent in each of regional market, will capture by regional incubators, right? So if you are living in your country, you know everything this country normally around your community, and who will be joined, who are recently interested in this market, this protocol, this type of idea, like that. Like that. Imagine, if someone or if new market comes in the market, like that. If there is an idea, like a new oracle mechanism, it need for the market any specific reason. So, okay, this is good. Okay, so through this Ethereum brand, we are starting researching on everything. Who guys are already started to research on new architecture model or new value model of oracle mechanism? Or there's a lots of oracle in the market, or including Chainlink too. So why we need new type of oracle? Is there a critical reason someone should create a new protocol or not? And if it's true, okay, so what type of architecture is the best? So each reactor is a hub for everyone as to collect more ideas, protocol ideas into the each reactor brand, and also we can share ideas with collaborating aligned incubators, and sorry, through the incubators we can easily to find really good talent in regional market. Maybe some case the founder comes from Japan and Korea and Mexico, and co-founding together for one protocol. I think this is the best. So each reactor can work for providing more increased coordination opportunities in the Ethereum ecosystem, especially for Ethereum incubation phase. And also, as I mentioned, Ethereum will do our cohort-style incubation programs. So normally, incubation program is just a bit of hard to are providing actual beneficial or benefit to mentor or guest speaker each of programs. Normally, everyone doing just a super voluntary work or just accessing to early stage protocols are only the reason they are doing. But we have to create more actual incentivized model through this action too. And if really good mentors support deeply to really specific founder, if founder will success in the future, the mentor will calculate something as his mentorship was very, very good in the early stage, something like this. How we can capture, how we can track on this. This is the things. And the left one is grow them as regional leading protocols. I think, as I personally think, it depends on the market, but especially in Japan too. The market has been recently changed a little bit. It means, so the past of timing, I think ecosystem is a puzzle, piece of puzzle. So there so many lots of pieces of puzzle are already in the puzzle. So there is a big lending protocol. There is a stablecoin protocol. There is the risk-taking protocol, as like this. So if protocol is already enough, someone should aggregate protocols into the one application and ship as one product. What I'm saying is that protocol is more OSS-based, open source-based, smart contract-based one. And the product means, more providing the things on it, like this. So in the last message from East Rector, the East Rector is like these things. So East Rector will support for early stage founders. And if you are running like your regional community, please let me know. Or we'd like to onboard you to East Rector. So let's work together. I think this is a new chapter for Ethereum incubation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. ありがとう